Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hump Day version of The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the left coast, from California. But as we know, I don't do this program by myself.
No, I join him every day from the East Coast, the coast with the most. My name is Mike Peworski, and my butt's been wiped.
Well, thank you for sharing, Michael. That's always good to know. Now, when you say the
East
Coast has the most, are you referring to the most guns, the most hurricanes, the most outrageous governors? What?
We're gonna go with the most freedom compared to the other coasts.
Okay, that would actually be true. I would actually have to say that because they on the West Coast here we have what we call the West Coast Wall of gun control.
Yes, you do.
So
yes, you do.
Yeah, very little freedom. Or there are people who are fighting for freedom here on the left coast, but not so much in the government.
Yeah, very true. You know, in some places you can't even identify the wall because it's a ghost gun wall.
It's a ghost gun wall.
Yeah. It's very festive. It's actually pumpkin flavored. You know,
pumpkin spice flavored. Pumpkins you gotta have the spice with the pumpkin.
Pumpkin spice ghost gun flavored. Yep.
This has gone wrong. This has gone so wrong.
Start your morning off with a bang.
There you go. How are we doing this morning, sir? This morning.
Not too shabby. Not too shabby. Let's see. We yesterday did some work. This morning. So far today, because this is the end of my day, so things are going well around here as well. So it is Hump Day. We've gone over the hurdle, so it's the official beginning of the weekend.
Well, that is very, very good, sir. Very, very good to hear. Well, it's still kind of early in the day. Well, not for me. I mean, my day usually starts at about 5:30 in the morning.
Right.
So 2:00 is still kind of early in the workday sometimes.
Right.
My goal always is to try and have my workday finished by 3, and it almost never happens.
Yep.
But, it is what it is. I enjoy the fact that I do, in fact, still control my own calendar, my own schedule, even though a lot of it is filled with the joy of work.
My goal is to see if I could just sit there and let the work happen, spontaneously, but it usually doesn't work that way, and I have to get up and do things.
It's always nice when your money can make money. See, that's true. Well, you are wealthy when your money is making money.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get my lawnmower to cut grass. That's all. Go cut grass, you. Go.
Well, see, the problem is when that time comes, then we're going to be looking at a Terminator type situation. What was the name of the company that?
We probably shouldn't say it. We don't want to alarm them.
We don't want to alarm them.
We don't want them to come out at us. But I believe I have the plan. Listen, I could get the lawnmower started, right? Just keep a rope tied to the spark plug cable. That way if it wakes up and starts pulling blades, I just go, come on, and just yank that cable, and it does.
So now when I had a property big enough for a riding lawnmower, what was really neat was once my kids got old enough, or let me clarify, because there's the weighted thing on the seat. Once they got heavy enough,
Yep.
I would just sit them on the riding lawnmower, and they had a blast driving the riding lawnmower around the thing. I just sit out there and just watch them, and make sure they can, ruin the lawn or kill themselves.
Exactly right. See, that works in a pinch, but I like to look out at my grass, and I want it to look like a ball field with each row of grass laying in the proper direction. Against the other row of grass, not just clumps of grass laying out there all willy nilly. That's just.
I used to not care about that, and then as I've gotten older, it's just more of a thing, and I'm like, okay, I'm that guy now. I'm get off my lawn guy.
That's what I'm saying. What are we, savages? We can't do that, I can remember as a young child the big argument in my house that my grandfather would ask people was who invented the lawn. He was very obsessed with who invented the lawn, and my grandmother would just yell at him, "Nobody invented it. It's just there." And he would be like, no, who invented the lawn? She's like, nobody invented it. It's just there. So it was a big thing in my house. Who invented the lawn? So.
I could see a Saturday evening just having this or afternoon sitting around sipping on some adult spirits and having this debate / conversation. The only thing now is that you could actually probably Google it and figure it out.
Yeah, listen. I've never. Hold on, I got computer access right here. Let's
There you
take a
go.
look. Let's see.
Google has ruined a lot of really good discussions and
Right here.
debates.
Who invented
Yeah,
the
let's get to
lawn?
that later, man. We got some news we need to talk about.
Oh, you brought it up. Oh, it says Budding,
Edward
Edwin
Budding.
Budding in 1830.
There you go. Okay, now we know.
The shearing of vegetable surfaces of lawns. He started to do. All right, well, there you go.
Basically, he had a bunch of
Answer.
crap growing in front of his house, and he decided to cut it all to one length.
Yeah, it sounds like he did not. Looking at it real quick, he did not invent the lawn, yet he did invent the lawn mower.
Okay, there you go. Now you know.
Yeah,
And now you know.
yeah, yeah. Nobody invented it; it's just there.
There.
Yeah, all right, that's it.
Okay, fine.
All right.
It's there and it's all one length.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, moving on to today's news. Well, look, folks, we all know that, first of all, if there is a wacky, whacked out left-wing communist, socialist, nutty thing that is going to happen, we know that odds are, it's going to happen in San Francisco. Well, guess what's happened? In-N-Out Burger, which, arguably could be considered America's burger, has actually been shut down in the city of San Francisco because of their refusal to enforce the vaccine mandate.
Can I get a double animal style?
Oh yeah, I'm now more tempted. I'm like, seriously, I just need to go and get myself some In-N-Out Burger just because of what San Francisco did.
How about a naked grilled cheese? Huh? Listen, if you don't know the hidden menu at In-N-Out Burger, you just got to go have fun with it. That's the beauty of In-N-Out Burger.
Just go and just start ordering stuff. Don't even I want monkey style fries.
Oh, get a monkey style. Oh man. Yeah, that's good stuff. But this is you knew it was going to happen, right? Like you said, and you knew where it was going to happen. You knew it's going to happen in California, and it's going to happen in San Francisco. They start having all of these mandates come out, and now again enforcing the mandates, right? Because we don't have the manpower to even put the people behind the counters here regularly, but we seem to have the manpower to enforce the mandates, and now they're having to shut down. Similar article I saw today out of Central Florida, Orlando, the city of Orlando here, and the Greater Orlando Aviation Authority is looking for COVID patrol agents, Craig, so they can enforce these mandates, here in Central Florida. So.
Can you show me your papers? Show me your papers, please.
Listen, I think I posted it up on my radio webpage. They're we're looking for Gestapo style agents here in Florida, in Central Florida.
I wonder if they're going to have brown shirts.
You know what? I thought, wouldn't it be nice if they did have brown shirts and maybe a little armband that says COVID on it? Something
with the needle on it.
Maybe in red that it catches the eye, so people know who it is, just
with a black needle, white with a red stripe and a black needle on it.
Well, yeah, exactly right. Yeah, because that's what catches the eye. We know that. And listen, if you're not doing the COVID, we'll give you a patch to wear on your clothes too. Something that stands out, something bright yellow that stands out. But there's the same thing that's going on right there in San Francisco, Craig. Everywhere going on, we do not have the ability to even bring workers to the table now, right? We're still having this problem. Let's even forget the $15 minimum wage mandate that's going on out there, and now you got people sitting at home collecting money growing off the Biden tree. I can't figure out why my gas price and my everything else keeps going up. It's not inflation, no, absolutely not. Keep your head in the sand. That's the best way to deal with this. And you've got people there saying we're going to shut you down. We got to shut down because we can't follow their rules. We can't follow their mandates.
Mike, I think you hit it right on the head when you talk about the fact we're having a hard time getting employees. And I'll tell you right now, a lot of the fast food places here in California are offering $20 an hour to start. Some of them are even offering signing bonuses. And now what we're telling people is, unless you get the jab, No, you're not welcome. You've got radio talk show hosts like Dan Bongino who are saying, look, no,
Yep.
you get rid of the vaccine mandate or you're going to lose me. You got radio stations losing employees. We already talked about ESPN is laying off employees. You have pilots who are refusing to work if they're mandated to get the vaccine. Those coach and the entire coaching staff at Washington State, once again, fired because they won't get the vaccine. I just, any entity that would say I'm going to fire you for refusing to inject in your body a chemical that has been around for less than a year, that has been studied for less than a year. I'm sorry, no matter what anybody says, I mean, we know that the short-term effects are fine, all right? At least for the most part, we know what the short-term effects are. But the only way you know the long-term effects is to have time to study them, and we don't have that. So how are you going to mandate that on people?
Yeah, I saw De Blasio in New York doubled down again on the if you do not get your city employees, you do not get your vaccinations, then you're going to be gone. Now let's give you a little instance. I think the NYPD has 35,000 sworn officers, right? And they're only at the estimate I saw earlier today was between 64 and 68% vaccination, up from 61%. So they got another 4 to 7% that have done it. But by the first of the month they don't get it done, Craig, they're talking about laying off to 15, 20,000 officers if they really stay with their stated intended goal here to start laying people off.
Well, in some places what they're also saying is that if you plan on retiring instead, they're talking about blocking your retirement.
Oh yeah.
I mean, think about this. I mean, that's what gets me about these people is I'm like, how you are so insane that you're going to make them get a jab that we don't know the long-term effects of it.
Yeah.
Right? Which, for some folks, that doesn't bother me, but it bothers some folks, and they have a right to be bothered by it, right?
Yeah.
But then on top of it, that it doesn't keep you from getting it, and that it doesn't keep you from spreading it.
Yeah. Yeah. Why? I actually hope, fingers crossed, that in New York City they do lay off these 10, 12, 15,000 officers there because listen, once you start taking away that number of police, guess what's going to happen? You're at the point now where the governments that are continuing to do this, and all entities of government, from your local city all the way up to the federal government, we're getting to the point where you're pushing people to bring pitchforks and torches to town hall meetings.
Yep.
And guess what? If you lose 30% of your police department, ain't nobody going to be there to stop the people with pitchforks and torches.
That's why, for example, the sheriff in Los Angeles said, "Yeah, I'm not enforcing this."
Yep. Exactly right. Some of them understand their position and their duties as as sheriffs, although not all sheriffs understand their constitutional responsibilities as sheriffs, do they, Craig?
Oh no, they do not. That was a nice segue. That was a good job. You must do this for a living. So there is a sheriff who has decided to make his comments known about ghost guns. This individual, his name is this is the Cook County Sheriff. His name is Sheriff Thomas Dart. Thomas Dart rhymes with fart. When you see him, you wonder why. Anyway, but he basically is completely and utterly anti home built, right? And he believes that the only reason why any individual would want to own do a home build, now he calls them ghost guns, but the only reason someone would want a home build is because they're looking to basically break the law or they're looking to commit a crime. Here are his exact words. He said, why would anybody ever think there is a useful purpose behind having guns that are untraceable? I can't imagine unless you have some criminal intent, Dart asserted. There is no other type of reason to have this gun with no markings on it unless you're going to be committing an offense. Or unless you live in a tyrannical government that is on its way to eventually confiscating firearms, meaning if they know what gun you have, they will eventually come after it. Sound about right?
It does sound about right, but I guess the sheriff does not know how to read because he cannot evidently take a look at the law and see what it says out there. When you read the Firearms Owners Protection Act, this is of 68 and updated in 86. No such rule or regulation prescribed after the date of the enactment of this act may require that records required to be maintained under this chapter or any other portion of the contents of such records be recorded or as transferred to a facility owned, managed, or controlled by United States or any state or any political subdivision thereof. So this, Craig, the law says, and this was one of the trade-offs we got when we assigned that all firearms being manufactured by corporations and licensed dealers and manufacturers had to have a serial number on them. The trade-off was that you'll never be able to maintain a database of the firearms that are owned in this country because that would be an infringement upon Second Amendment rights. And we all know that registration is the fourth step or the pre-step to confiscation. And yet this sheriff has now decided that, forget the law that was made years ago, forget the deal. We want the serial numbers on there so we can come get them from you because I believe right now, as sheriff, and I was just quoted as saying it, that if you have one of these firearms, you must be a criminal and you must be out to commit illegal activities.
You know what's interesting about this is that there are many in the law enforcement community. I believe that on the right side, and I say amongst conservatives, there's those who believe in law and order. Most of us believe in law and order, but we also believe in fundamental rights and liberty. And sadly, what happens is some value law and order more than they value liberty, freedom, and rights. And they don't even realize that they do it because as soon as someone from law enforcement says, you don't need that, or this will make it more difficult for us law enforcement to enforce law and order, these individuals are willing to give up those rights or give up those liberties because law enforcement told them that they needed to. And I just think that it oftentimes come at loggerheads. It's funny, you go in law enforcement, usually this is the sort of stuff that you hear from the higher ups, the people who are either running some of the departments or you hear from the union bosses. But the rank and file law enforcement officer, the rank and file cop would agree with you and I that, liberty ought to always trump their idea of law and order. Yes, they have to enforce law and order, but you don't get to trample on people's rights in order to do your job enforcing law and order. And once again, they call these things ghost guns because they want to make them seem bad and evil, but these are literally nothing but home builds. These are people building firearms at home. And their goal is to stamp that out, even though there really is almost no evidence. First of all, we know that these guns are not being used overall in crimes because guess what? A lot of them are rifles, are like AR-15s, and they're not. AR-15s or rifles in general are not being used in crimes. But they don't want to tell you that.
No. Just to take half a step back, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary security or safety deserve neither liberty nor safety or security. Benjamin Franklin, remember?
Yep.
He wrote it to the provincial governor in 1756 when he was talking about tyranny and the king trying to oppress the people there in Pennsylvania at the time. So, listen, it's the same now. As soon as you start to sacrifice or give up safety and security for freedoms, then you don't deserve either. And law enforcement, folks, is safety and security of the day. Remember, they did not have modern law enforcement agencies to talk about back then. So it was the king and his rifled thugs that were the modern day law enforcement in 1756.
Right. And I believe some of these folks who promote this stuff, I believe some of them are well-meaning. That's not their intention to be tyrannical, but they have to understand there's got to be people there to push back because they're not thinking liberty and freedom. They should be, but they're not.
No.
It's up to us to fight for our rights, to stand up against liberty and tyranny, because in many cases, a lot of them are just bureaucrats, right? Yes. They're like anybody else doing a job. They want to make their job as easy as possible. And if that means violating your rights or my rights, some folks like Sheriff Dart are more than willing to do that.
Willing to take the liberties away from us, right? And remember, he might be willing to take them away, but you have to be willing to not give them up. That's how this works.
That is exactly how this works. Exactly.
They're not his to take; they are ours to keep. So,
well, exactly. And sometimes you have to actually fight for them.
Exactly right. Yep, exactly right.
All right, so moving right along, we've talked a lot about Dave Chappelle and the Chappelle, his special called The Closer. Well, as you know, there were a number of Netflix employees, LGBTQ and LGBTQ-friendly employees at Netflix who were willing to walk out, who were staging a walkout if the show was not pulled. And the CEO of Netflix came out and basically stood behind the program and said, "Let's stood by his decision." It's like, or supported the program. Now, I want to say that some of it just had to do with what he believed, which was he believed in artistic freedom and didn't really believe that it was offensive. But I also believe that a bunch of that had to do with the fact that they paid him. They invested $60 million into that one special. And by the way, I'm sure they have more than recouped that amount of money. But now, afterwards, now as employees got closer to the walkout, there are a number of entities that are reporting that he has had a change of heart. But I've read the articles, Mike, and you and I read the articles, and that's not what I got from the articles.
Yeah, Craig, it's amazing again with this Dave Chappelle nonsense. Like you and I've said many times over the past months on here, that it's going to be comedians, I believe, that break the cancel culture and break the wokeness because that's where they live. That's their job, is to live out there on the First Amendment.
Right.
So I believe they're going to be the ones that bring this back eventually. And Dave, right at the charge, leading it. I think what he said when you listened to the special, was it Sticks and Stones was the last ones. He talked about the alphabet people. And the the G's, the B's, and the Q's, they were good, but the T's, they hate his friggin' guts. And then it started into humor and differences and interpretations, and it never once got mean, against them. But evidently that wasn't enough, and that's what he brought out in the second special, or this last special, The Closer. And he says it, and Craig, it makes me immediately believe that none of the people that are going after Dave Chappelle, whether it happens to be the media or it happens to be these disgruntled Netflix employees, actually saw the program The Closer, because he spends more than half of that program talking about there's no hate. And in fact, he talks about a woman, a transgendered woman that ended up committing suicide over being bullied by these people that thought Dave was making fun of them, and he's not. He's being a comedian. So clearly, to me, they have nothing going on, Craig. And what it sounds like, though, I don't know, it might be a bunch of racists, because they're going after this black man's, success. Maybe that's what's going on. But there's clearly nothing in there. And I do appreciate the president there of Netflix standing up and saying, this is a business decision. We're making money. If you watch the program, no one's being hurt. And Dave's very clear about that. This is about humor, not hurt. And there is no one being mean in there. This is about humor, and that's what it is. And that's what he said. And that's what his quotes in his articles have been. But like you said, Craig, all of a sudden in the past day or two, now they're quoting him saying he screwed up. And that's nowhere out there.
That's not what he said. But you know what? Something really just hit me in this conversation. I think part of the thing is, and this is what frustrates these people who are really loud and vocal. I think because if you really think about it, I mean, literally the LGBTQ community as advocates, most of them all come from the perspective of sexual identity, right? Or sexual preference. But the trans community comes from gender identity. And it's really a different subject and a different topic. And many in the LGBT and many in that community, as far as dealing with politics and whatnot, recognize that. And that's one of the things that I think in the special Sticks and Stones that Dave points out.
Yes.
And I think that bothered them. I think anyway, that's just a thought. I'm just thinking that they don't like the fact that they've been exposed. And more, not so much those who are LGBTQ, but the leadership, the activists, the wokes, the ones who, the leaders of the woke movement in that area are the ones who've been exposed, and they're the ones who don't like it. They're the ones he's actually talking about.
Yeah, no, agreed. He does talk about that. He says, the alphabet people all, those of us that are not an alphabet people would believe that they're all together for the same cause, and that's not true. And as Dave said, they just happen to all be riding in the same car together,
right?
And they all have a different mission. And it's like he's explained, they're angry at each other or they're angry at the situation, rather than being angry at Dave. But again, it's amazing that he spent the better half of the closer explaining what's gone on.
Right.
And if anybody paid half attention to that,
right,
there'd be no ill will towards Dave Chappelle.
Well, exactly. No, I completely agree. And the funny part is that that's really kind of the Democratic Party as a whole, right? Yeah, I mean, they're one car on the Democratic train.
Yes. That's exactly what it is. Listen, they're going after him. They're going to make an example of him. When we say, well, listen, you might be racist going after Dave Chappelle. Well, so now they're going to go after the Netflix guy. Right. Well, so quick, just fire. We got to aim our hate speech somewhere else. Yeah, but they quote him as saying, "Oh, I screwed up." No. They had the conversation with him. One media outlet had a conversation with him, and he said, well, obviously things have gone a little bit different than we thought. If we had known ahead of time what was going to happen, we would have prepared differently and probably handled a little differently, but our outcome would still be the same, and we'd be presenting this TV show no matter what. Well, they interpreted that as him saying, "I screwed up."
Exactly. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think he feels like probably the leading up to it, as well as kind of his response. He should have done a better job of listening to his employees, understanding and hearing them, but he was never going and a better job of communicating the importance of artistic freedom.
Right. Now he was not against hearing his employees. Craig, this is like saying, listen, you live in California and you prepared the whole season for fires and for earthquakes, right? Mm-hmm. And you did everything. But then a mudslide came and you were like, well, crap, I probably should have prepared for mudslides more. He's not saying he's ignored mudslides. He's saying, "Oh man, I didn't prepare for mudslides." Well,
exactly. No, you. There you go. No, I hear you. I hear exactly what you're saying. Yes, you are correct. Anyway, that thing is. So anyway, the point being is that the whole thing has yet to play out. In the meantime, people keep tuning in and they keep watching the closer, which pretty much is exactly what Dave Chappelle and Netflix want.
Yep. And Dave is giggling his black ass off at you.
And by the way, just so you know, if you have not watched it, if you haven't watched the show, you really don't have anything constructive to add to the conversation.
Yeah, right.
Just saying.
Yeah.
All right, moving right along, our last topic, Terry McAuliffe. Terry McAuliffe is running for governor in Virginia. Now, folks, I need you to understand, I need you to hear this. The reason why we point this out is because you need to understand how important it is and how much Everytown for Gun Safety, or let me clarify, Michael Bloomberg, anti-gun, anti-liberty, in the pocket of Chinese government, Michael Bloomberg, how important it is to him to make sure that he elects his minions to office. And Terry McAuliffe is clearly one of his minions. They spent $500,000. Let me clarify. They gave him $500,000, and then they spent almost another $50,000 to $100,000 in independent expenditures in order to help get him elected governor or reelected governor in the state of Virginia.
Hey, Bloomberg money, right? Here's exactly what we're doing, Craig. We are buying elections. I've said for many, many years, in addition to term limits, that campaign finance reform needs to occur. And there's really only one way to get that done. I'm sorry. And that's assign a $500 limit to, or $1,000 limit. You just determine the amount per social security number or per business employee identification number. That way, Craig, if you got 10 people in your family, you can make up to 10 donations to each individual candidate, however you want to do it, but that's it. You can't go around doing more. The problem is with super PACs and PACs out there that people can donate billions of money to these corporate organizations that are non-corporate organizations, and then those corporate organizations go out and start buying the ads. It's ridiculous. The way to do this and the way to get rid of these billionaire fund people, giving towards and buying elections is to lock in business IDs and social security numbers at a maximum rate that they can give towards any candidate.
Well, but the only other thing you can do, the only thing you have to do with that is you have to limit a candidate's ability to spend money on themselves, because otherwise, then you're only going to have wealthy people being able to run for office.
Sure, agreed.
Now, the problem is the Supreme Court's already ruled that you can't do that.
The liberal Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court has already ruled that money is speech.
Yeah.
So
that's right. That was the Clinton era Supreme Court. Let's be clear on that. So we got to wait for it to come back around again.
It was a majority conservative Supreme Court.
Well,
yeah,
and remember, the way it's presented and how it comes in. The conservative Supreme Court will rule via the rule of law, as opposed to the emotion.
What I will say is this: is that the only thing that will ever eliminate the role of money in politics is an electorate who decides they're going to educate themselves and be engaged. Because I don't care how much money you put into an election. People are only going to intake so much information, right? And so the key is that being able to get access to good quality information about candidates, about their positions, and about issues. And if you have an informed electorate, then people will make responsible decisions. The problem is most of the electorate is either uninformed or ill-informed, or misinformed. In many cases, they're not educated on the issues, they're indoctrinated on the issues. And so we have to find a way to help people get educated, get the facts, get the information, get people's positions, and then let them make decisions.
Yeah, I agreed completely. It's the way to do it. I think, like I said, the additional portion there is, perhaps term limits, would be needed, because we seem to have them everywhere. The presidency has them. We have them. Even in is it Virginia, right? Mm-hmm. Virginia, because you can only be the governor one term. That's the extreme term limit. So when you're the governor there, you have to leave and go back. It comes, and you can never serve two consecutive terms.
What I will say in terms of term limits, because I've seen how they've literally made California worse. They have to be terms long enough for individuals to be able to become experts in an issue area, to get to really know the process and how it works and build the relationships that you need to actually be effective. When we instituted term limits, for example, for assemblymen, it was 6 years, so 3 terms. So the first term, you were trying to figure out where the bathroom was. The second term, you might actually get some stuff done. And then the third term, you were a lame duck. You also saw significant staff turnover. So the people who had some of the institutional knowledge as staff, they were now moving in and out. And so you have a lot of people now in the California legislature who don't have a lot of expertise. The only people who really wound up staying a long time are the leaders of the majority party and the lobbyists. So you got to make the terms long enough to where people can actually learn the process and get some stuff done before they term out.
And I'll give you a response to that, saying we have term limits in the state legislature in Florida. And if it takes you 2 years to learn where the bathroom is, learn faster or be recalled. All right, because the term limits down here.
They're not going to get recalled, because with any elective cycle, first of all, if you're running every 2 years, you're spending the first year figuring things out. You're spending the second year running for re-election. The third year, you might actually get something done, and the fourth year, you're running for re-election. The fifth year, I mean,
but that's the point is, maybe you shouldn't be there running for re-election. That's not how this was meant. Being a politician was never meant to be a career and to be there for 3 or 4 terms.
I just find it. My issue. See, here's my thing. Is like, we don't want a mechanic who is the most inexperienced mechanic that we know of. We don't want a pilot who's the most inexperienced pilot. We don't want a brain surgeon who's the most inexperienced brain surgeon. But the people who are making decisions about all of these, we want them to have no experience.
But here's what I do want, Craig, and you're wrong when you say that, because I want the guy who's the best mechanic in my neighborhood to go to Congress for 2 or 4 years. I want the pilot who's the best pilot in the fleet for 2 years or 4 years to go to Congress and represent me in Congress. I want the best doctor that's the best doctor in my neighborhood for 2 or 4 years that's respected by my community, and we trust him to go there and make the right decisions for 2 or 4 years. And then he can come back home and another well-respected member of my community can go there. Because if he's smart enough to fix a car, fly an airplane, or fix a person, he can figure out how to vote yes or no on an issue.
No, that's just not true, because there's a whole bunch of history that goes into some of these things and some of these decisions. Because if they were only going to be making decisions about cars and they were a mechanic, if they were only going to be making decisions about health and they were a doctor, then that would be one thing. But they're making decisions about all sorts of things, and they have very little background. You take the institutional knowledge and you put it in the hands of unelected staff members and lobbyists.
A mechanic, my mechanic, you know what he does when he's home, Craig? He probably eats meals. He probably stops. He watches TV. He does a lot of things besides just work on cars. The solution here, the point I'm making is he's a successful, respected person in his community. He doesn't get to be successful and respected because an idiot. He's an idiot that only knows how to turn a wrench. He's a well-rounded individual in the community and respected by all of us, and we all respect his decisions, no matter what it happens to be on.
Because those are the people we elect to. Those are the people we elect to office.
Well, that's the problem. Okay,
those are the people we elect to office.
Yeah, the people that we're electing seem to be, making term limits work.
I'm just sorry, man. I'm not against term limits. I'm just like, you've got to make it a long enough term where they can actually be effective. That's all. I think it's 6 or 8. It's 2 or 3. And I think I think 8 years. I think 8 years is a good enough term.
And I think the Senate should be brought down to 4 years and make that 2 terms, so you have 8. I also think that.
All right, we're in agreement. We're in agreement.
And if you leave, like let's say you want to go from the House to the Senate, well, however the amount of time that you served in the House, you've got to be out of office before you can run for another office. So you can't just go from the House to the Senate. You've got to be out for 8 years before you can come back again.
I wouldn't disagree with that. Okay. So see, folks, this is how people who disagree can come to agreement. And we haven't even had any bourbon yet.
They just agree with me.
All right, hey, let's get into today's parting shot. Now, all right, so we all know John Gruden got fired for things that he said 10 years earlier. And I don't know if any of you have seen the actual comments that he made. So we wanted to make sure in today's parting shot to share some of those, really outrageous comments that would eventually wind up getting him fired. So let's start with this one. You got the first mainstream African-American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice looking guy. That's a storybook, man. Oh, wait.
That's pretty good, right? He's talking good about the black man. So, all right.
I don't know if that was actually John Gruden, but that's okay. That's okay. We got another one here. You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. I'm not joking. There might be an air of truth to that. Maybe I don't think so, but that's kind of racist. But I think that should be enough to get John Gruden fired, right?
Yep. How about poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids?
Oh, that is so racist. From the coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. I can't believe this
sounds
stuff.
Like something he would say at the combine, right? It's something he said at the combine, I think.
I think it's probably something he said at the combine. Probably when they're doing those tests. What they call it, the Wonderlic test.
The Wonderlics and the cognitives. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Look, well, I'll tell you what. If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black. Wait a minute.
Hold on.
Okay, I remember that quote.
Wait, I do too.
That's not a John Gruden quote.
Then who is it? You mean John Gruden didn't say all these horrible things that he should have been fired for?
You know what? I don't think he said any of these things. Whoa. Okay. Folks, in case you haven't guessed, every single one of those comments was made by our current Commander-in-Chief, President Joe Biden.
Corn Pop,
right. Corn Pop's killer.
Yep.
The Corn Pop killer.
Yep.
Every single one of those statements was made by him, and yet no one No one on the left, no one in the mainstream media, no one in the NFL is calling for him to be canceled.
No, absolutely not. It's just nothing but hypocrisy. If you have not seen that yet, the conversation we've had with you today about Dave Chappelle, about Netflix, it's nothing but hypocrisy. When they want to cancel you or woke you or whatever the hell the right way to say it is,
Yep.
the media will come after you, and if they don't want to, they won't. That's all there is to it.
I feel so bad. I do not remember. Jason Whitlock. He's a sports writer. He actually he's a conservative sports writer. He's written on a number of different things. It's like when this whole thing came out and they were talking about, and basically when he originally resigned, when Gruden resigned, he was like, have they paid attention to any of the song lyrics from Dr. Dre or Snoop Dogg or Eminem? I mean, if what John Gruden said is offensive, maybe and once again, said 10 years ago, maybe they should go back 10 years and listen to some of the music of the folks that they are going to be performing at the halftime show for the Super Bowl.
Well, Craig, you have to understand, when you sing, that is performing. It's just like when you act, that's performing. So when you say, what do you mean, you people, as an actor, it's okay. Right. You just can't say it in real life.
Exactly. So and oh, by the way, what you say in a private conversation is not private.
What? But why shouldn't it be? Why would you want it to be? The woke culture might want to hold it against us.
Because it's offensive, so therefore it is not private.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Can't be. There's no way. It can't be.
All right, man, dude, we've run a little bit over, man. Do me a favor. Give a shout out to our sponsors.
Say hello to our good friends at Grid Defense and Gorilla Machining. Grid Defense, Gorilla Machining, and our good friends at the California Republican Assembly.
Folks, California Republican Assembly, make sure to visit them, become a part of I always say this. If you're not a part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Don't be a part of the problem. Join the Republican wing of the Republican Party in the state of California. All right, that's going to be it for today's program. We very much appreciate y'all tuning in. We appreciate you liking, sharing, and subscribing and telling your friends about the Rundown.
It's a good place.
It's the place to be. See you tomorrow.